Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tech Talk Live. I'm Jeff Potts. This is episode number 77, and today we will be reviewing the projects that we worked on during the virtual global hackathon, which was about a little less than a month ago. And I'm joined by a panel of people who participated in that hackathon. If you are interested in demoing what you worked on and you are not on the panel, then please just PM me on IRC and I will send you the link, so that is not a problem. Before we get going here, I want to make a couple of plugs or announcements. First, you'll notice Richard Esplin is not on the call. Usually my partner in crime is on every single Tech Talk Live, and he's not here this morning, and that's because he is enjoying some much-needed vacation. So he has packed up his entire family and driven out to the coast, and they've gone camping and things. So I'm happy for Richard to have some time with his family. It's good. Next is Monday, June 16th. There is a meetup in Washington, D.C. So if you are in the area, you can go to the Washington, D.C. meetup. And if you want to know more about that meetup, you should go to meetup.com/alfrescodc. That is the page for the Washington, D.C. meetup. That's June 16th. Let's see, next. Oh, this is interesting. Some of you on the panel might be interested in this. The Community Edition build is about to move to Maven. So this will be... oh, it's exciting.
Nice.
Maven's
Very
excited.
nice.
All right, cool. We need some help testing this out, and I don't think we're ready for that help. This is just a heads up that that is happening within the next, I think, days. So
Sign me up.
that is happening, and what we'll probably do is test it against the nightly build, and then that'll get working, and then when we do the next official Community Edition drop, then that one will be the one that builds with Maven. As I understand it, the Maven SDK in its current form will not be compatible with the changes that are being made to the source code. So there are some tweaks that have to be made to the Maven SDK in order for this to work. And so those are the things that are being worked out right now. But that's all in process, and you will be hearing more from the community team when it's time to start testing that. I guess I should also say that means there's also an official, a new community release that will be happening soon. So you may want to start looking at the nightly builds and sort of testing those out and reporting issues that you find. So I guess that'll be Community Edition 4.3a is what that'll be. Last announcement, and then we'll jump into the content here, is that the Alfresco Summit speaker notifications should be going out to those of you who submitted a speaking proposal within the next week or two. So Richard and I have worked with a committee of people internally to review the submissions, and we think we have a really nice technical track set and ready. So the technical tracks are pretty much set. The business tracks are also pretty much set, and so if you submitted a talk within the next week or two, you should be knowing the status of your proposal. So thanks everybody. We had I think 200 and something submissions, so there was a lot of competition for a limited number of slots. So that was great. And Alfresco Summit early bird rate is in effect right now and ends at the end of the month. So you need to get out there and get registered if you haven't already, if you are looking to save some money for either San Francisco or London. So make sure you don't miss out. All right, guys. So we have a nice panel set up here today to talk about virtual global hackathon projects. And rather than introduce everybody now, let's just introduce people as we talk about the projects. I know, Nathan, you've got a commitment that you need to, a time commitment. So why don't we start with you and your work with the hackathon, which I believe was around the Amazon Glacier integration.
Sure. So anybody that deals with a large amount of content knows that if you're in an environment with heavy retention requirements, it can get very expensive to archive content for long periods of time, especially if it's a large volume of content. Amazon Glacier provides a really neat solution for that because it's really, really, really cheap. The downside to it is that for retrievals, it's also really, really, really slow. So what we put together is a kind of a framework for archiving content off to Amazon Glacier, and then we're still working on the retrieval piece. So we've got a couple of concepts that we're still working on there. So right now it just does the archiving. You can still do retrieval manually through the console, but you would have to we have to finish up the retrieval component. So what that looks like, get my screen share going. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So we put together a really simple little project. It implements the archiving as an action. So we started out with an archive service that provides us just an archive node interface. We give it a container that it's going to go to, and then a Boolean as to whether it should clear the local content stream. So one of the things that we can do is when we archive something, we can actually take the local content stream and just kind of blank it, but we leave the metadata there so that you can still search for the node by metadata, but when you find it, you're going to find basically a pointer to where it is in Glacier so that you can ask for it to be retrieved. We've put together a really simple action to do that, and then a little content model to support the idea of the archive. So within our model, we're storing things like, well, this implemented as an aspect, so is it actually archived? What's the archive ID, the location URI, and then some basic information about who initiated the archive, the retrieval, what's its status, and then a retrieval job ID, because Glacier can take up to 4 hours to do a content retrieval. So we want to make sure that, we're tracking the currently running retrieval jobs. There's also a share component for this, so you could call this just as an action from any other piece of JavaScript code or Java code or however else you would call an action. You could call it from a content rule, but to make it easy, we also have a very simple little share UI that goes along with it. I have to find the right window. So here's just a simple JPEG that I put up into Alfresco. If I go into the document details page, we have a new action called archive, and when we click on this, it's just triggering that action, sending that document up to Glacier, and then confirming that that Glacier has actually received it. That can also be done asynchronously, so for very large documents, it could take a long time to actually get that up. And what that's doing behind the scenes is, if we look at our, where is that Glacier implementation? There we go. That's actually just setting up our Amazon credentials with our access key and our secret key, and then it's just sending that node to Glacier. So first it actually creates a vault in Glacier. So a vault is kind of like a storage area for related content. We prep our archive, so we basically add an aspect to it. We generate a checksum of it, and then we just upload that archive using the Amazon client. If I go back to the browser and I look at that Glacier management console, we can see we do have a vault created that's got about 15 archive items in it. Now, this makes for a really horrible live demo because Amazon only refreshes the number of archives in your vault once every 24 hours. So what you're seeing here are actually the archives that we uploaded on the day of the hackathon. The one that I just uploaded won't increment that archive count until 24 hours from now. And that's really about it. As far as things that we learned from doing this little experiment, the first thing I think we learned is that I'm really, really bad at crafting a git ignore file that works right. I think half of our commits are Ray Goss cleaning up stuff that I put in there that shouldn't have been. And then, I think the other thing that we learned is that doing these really asynchronous operations in Alfresco is going to be tricky. So, with a retrieval that can take up to 4 hours and no ability to necessarily have Amazon push a message back to the repository, right? Because the repo could be behind a firewall. Amazon might not be able to reach it. It's going to be tricky to come up with a mechanism that works in all cases to notify a user that a retrieval operation has actually been completed. I think we're going to have to fall back to polling or something at first. So yeah, it was myself, Angel, and Ray Goss put all this together. Our little 2-continent, 3-person team.
Very nice. So, quick question. Let's say that was a text document that you were moving off to Glacier. Once it moves to Glacier, are you still able to search and find that text document, or will it be removed from the search index?
If you've told it to remove the content stream, then it would be searchable by metadata, but not by content.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can choose to leave the content stream there, but we typically remove it, especially if it's a large file. Otherwise, you're archiving it, and you still have it in the repository, and you've lost a lot of the value of the archive, which is getting that stuff out of there.
Right.
We're also looking at maybe doing some stubs where you may select what metadata you want to preserve in that pointer node, so that you can pare back the amount of stuff you have to deal with.
Cool. All right, very cool. Any questions from the panel for Nathan and the Glacier integration?
Yeah, I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was working with the Alfresco Explorer, and then you have some actions, and you can say run this one on the background.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, you just have to check the logs to know whether the action finished. So probably you have more or less the same kind of issue with this retrieval, which is asynchronous, or is it in which sense is equivalent to something running in the background, actually?
Well, the problem is that the asynchronous retrieval is a request. It's just a web service request to Amazon to initiate a vault retrieval. That call returns immediately. So the retrieval action will always return right away and return us the HTTP response code from Amazon. But what that's done is that's initiated an asynchronous action in Amazon to retrieve that content and move it to S3. So we basically have to either subscribe to like an Amazon queue to tell us when it's ready, or if we're behind a firewall, we may have to just poll Amazon periodically and say, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And when it is, then we can retrieve the content from S3 and put it back into the node that was the placeholder node for the archive.
Yeah, it's not simple.
No.
No. Okay, thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
So there's a question coming in via IRC from Douglas CRP asking which library is being used for this. And I don't know if there's more context to the question, but did you use any special libraries or any open source libraries that were available, Nathan?
No, this is all built using Amazon's Java SDK. And because of the way we had to do it, we had to use a combination of the high-level and low-level functions within that SDK, but it's still just Amazon's AWS Java SDK right out of their Maven repo.
All right. So, Douglas, I hope that answers your question. If not, please follow up in IRC, and we will ask more questions of Nathan. Okay. So, next. So did you, Nathan? Did you enjoy? You're the organizer of the in-person hackathons, and you were obviously involved in this one as well. Any thoughts or feedback on the concept?
The concept is awesome, especially if you've got a community of people around the world that work. I started the project and built some stub code and put it up on GitHub. I passed it off to Angel because he's in Europe. He started work 6 hours before me. When I came in, he had most of my punch list that I was looking to get done, and a bunch of other stuff too. And then when he went offline, Ray and I just picked it up and ran with it. So it really, that whole follow the sun concept worked really well for us.
Awesome, very cool.
And the
Great.
Blast, we're doing one at a customer site today, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. On that note, I got you.
Yeah. All right, Nathan. Thanks, man. Talk to you later. And don't forget, folks, that at Alfresco Summit on the first optional day, which is the day when training is provided, there will be an in-person all-day hackathon, and Nathan will be there, as well as probably several people on the panel will also be there. So All right, well, let's talk about what went on in Belgium. So, Boris, uh, what you want to give us a recap? I mean, you sort of we started this thing out as a virtual hackathon, and then
Yes.
I think you were one of the first people that said, "Hey, why don't some of us work on the hackathon, together in the same room?" And before long, you had a pretty good group of people there, all working out of the office and having fun and.
Yeah, well, when we organized the meetup in the Belgium user group in December, I saw there was a good bunch of people who wanted to participate in different activities and all the stuff, and that's why I thought, okay, maybe if we gather in one room, will be very nice so that we can work in person. But then the reaction from people from Laundry, from France, and then Ole, who came from Denmark, and then we have Philippe Dubois, which is an alfresco engineer coming from Luxembourg, make it very international. And in the last 3 weeks or something, we got Francesco from Italy coming here. So it was really, really good. So it was sort of a European meeting. So because we had this good bunch of people coming, we decided to first meet on Thursday evening. So we went out, we have some dinner, and then we went for some drinks, of course. If you're in Belgium, having beers is a good thing to do. And then we went to, so we have a very good place here at the CIRB, and we have a nice room with a large screen where we could put the Google Hangout over there, so we could see the demo from Roy from Australia, who had a very nice demo, so we could see it also over there. And we actually had 13 people coming to work on different projects, and also people like the activity guys who are located in Belgium, which is Joram and Frederick. They say, okay, we don't have any particular project to do a hackathon thing, but we just want to be there just for the ambiance and a sort of a meetup. So it was really good to have them here as well. So for the project themselves, we have Philippe Dubois, who was going to work with Laurent van der Linden, also from Xinit. Unfortunately, Laurent had to leave very early because his wife was going to the hospital to have the birth of their kid.
Oh,
So
wow.
that one, yeah, it went pretty well in the end. So, but it was sooner than expected. So Philippe carried on working on trying to integrate these dynamic extensions that Laurent is working on for doing subsystems. I don't know how far he could go, but he worked with two other guys, one from here from our development team, and Frederick, another Frederick from one of the Alfresco partners, also here in Belgium, from Amplexor. So it was good. They learned a lot from Philippe, and this is what they told me, that it was very nice to work with him. And because Philippe knows really a lot of internal stuff from the core of Alfresco, so that was excellent. Now, with Francesco, what we did is that we actually, more like a hackathon, was more like a training day, because Francesco was showing us, and us, I mean Lanry, another guy from here from CIRB, and myself, how to work with the R, the AAA R, how it's called, this is Alfresco Analytics thing.
This is the Pentaho integration that
Yes.
Triple AR.
Yes, exactly. So what we did is that we took one of our instances here at the CIRB, and we were able to analyze it entirely without having the auditing from Alfresco being enabled, which is good because it already shows you that you can do this analytic report with any Alfresco. But we also understood what are the kind of reports that you can build when you have auditing enabled, which is people who log in a certain hours and all those kind of stuff. And also, Larry had a request for the hackathon, which was to include custom metadata from your custom model into the report, and that was the thing that we started to program in the later part of the afternoon with Francesco, and he carried on with the work. He cannot be today, unfortunately, but he is quite advanced with that. And now the good thing is that we have a group of people who is going to carry on in the development of R. So Francesco passed from one single guy project to a team now. So the next goal is that we are going to take advantage of the hackathon in London the day before the summit to work again on a more concrete stuff for R. So it's good. So then we have the other two projects that I will let Willem to talk about it, and Ole. And just to sum up for the event, we had a visit to the server rooms over here in the company, and I got good feedback from the people that was interesting. We had two kind of cooling system, one which is really noisy and with a lot of wind, and the other one which is with liquid, which much better and all the stuff. So that was interesting to see for the people. So as a sort of meetup was as a good event. And of course, after the hacking time, we went to another pub as it should be, and we enjoyed pizzas and all the stuff. So it was a great day actually.
Nice.
So that's for my part, and I let probably Willem, who has nice stuff to show.
Okay, so I made a small presentation. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, think you can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so what we did during the hackathon was to try to make a prototype to suggest metadata to users. For example, when they were editing metadata using the metadata form and share. The problem that we tried to solve was what we noticed was that it always seems to be a battle between the people who develop Alfresco and the people who use it, that it's always hard to force users to fill in all the metadata. So we wanted to make it much easier for the end users to fill in the metadata. What we already did on some customer projects was to, for example, you create rules on folders that when you upload the document, it already sets some default metadata. And we did something similar as well with custom behaviors and policies. Also, when you upload the document to a folder, that it inherits metadata, for example, from the parent folder. But if you have to set those rules on every folder, it takes a lot of time and a lot of configuration. And it's also hard to maintain. For example, if the default metadata value has to change, you have to change your code or change the parameter, or so it's hard to maintain and time-consuming. So what we did was instead of configuring all those rules, we took a look at the data that was already there. For example, if all the documents in a folder have the same metadata, we take advantage of that information and show that to the user. What you can see here on the screenshot is that we, for example, showed a list of metadata values for a specific property, and instead of ordering them alphabetically, we ordered them based on the relevance for that specific folder. And we calculated that relevance. Here's another screenshot, for example, of a use case. You have this folder, and for all the documents in that folder, almost all of them have the same metadata value. So it would be not so fair to ask users to always manually metadata the same value over and over again, because we already have that information, so it could be automated. What we did was we used a machine learning algorithm to that took, for example, the location, the path location of a document, and that trained an offline model, and afterwards we used that offline model to, given for a path, we asked the model to return a prediction for a specific metadata property. So if you would go to another folder, it will show you a different list just based on information in that folder. The technology that we used was we actually used a Python library called scikit-learn, and we chose Python because it was really easy to start developing it, and it didn't took us long to make a prototype. Here, for example, I can show you some code. We just read in. We didn't connect. The data came actually from an export to an Excel file, and we took that Excel file as an input for our machine learning algorithm. Then we trained it. It took about a minute and a half to train it, but when we asked it to predict, it only took a few milliseconds, so you only have to spend some time on the training. And then the output that we got here was a list with metadata values and the probability. And that result from that call we showed in the share metadata forum. So, for example, if we go to this share location, you see that a lot of documents have the metadata value handleiding. It's actually called manual. And then, for example, when we upload the documents, we already made a customization for a client that that forces users to fill in metadata. For example, the OK button is disabled when some mandatory metadata has to be filled in by the user. But the users weren't always that keen to fill in the metadata, so this would make their life a lot easier. So this pop-up shows, for example, the handleiding metadata value on top, and because it's the most relevant in the metadata value in that for that location.
Willem, is that metadata being populated by a query to your service, or did you, for this, did you? Okay, cool.
It's also, for example, we also use a small Python web framework called Flask, and then what we did was we just, I can show it. Yeah, we just loaded in the model, and then we called the predict method, and then we outputted that result into a JSON, and that JSON was loaded into that drop-down box over here. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, if I go to another folder, for example, and I upload another file, it asks me to metadata the document, and then because it's a different location, it shows a different list. And you can see that most of the documents in that folder have the same metadata value. So yeah, that was about it. So, but now we only took at the document's location, but it's not limited to that. You could also, for example, what we noticed was that, for example, a bookkeeper or an accountant, when he uploads a document, it's usually something has to do with an invoice or something like that. So that's also information you could use. But yeah, maybe in the next hackathon in London we can spend some more time on it. But
well, the thing is good is that
no, it was just get the idea across.
Yeah. Well, the thing is good is that all the decision, I mean the resolution, I mean this metadata, this value have a higher priority, it happens all external to Alfresco, if I understand correctly. So you are not really forcing Alfresco to do more work in order to provide the metadata. So it could be run actually in a different server if you see that the performance is
if you have a clustered environment, it would probably be better to set it up as a different web server, like you could do with Solar, for example. But you still have to fetch all the information from Alfresco. So now we just used an export to a spreadsheet to an Excel. But yeah, one of the next steps would be to really integrate it, and for example, with CMIS or some other technology.
Yeah, I happen to know a decent library for Python that works with CMIS. You could use.
Actually, use it over here.
You could actually.
Yeah, for so the argument that I gave to my model was the noderef. So, and I used CMIS to fetch some metadata for that noderef using what's it called, the CMIS. Yeah, the CMIS-lib Python library. So.
Yeah. And you could also use the change log or change log feature of CMIS to ask for the changes, and then you could fetch the changes and feed that to your training algorithm. Awesome. So a question coming in from IRC is about the that forced metadata fill enhancement that you made to the upload, and once Douglas is asking if that particular feature is a separate customization that could be used by others.
Okay, yeah, we actually put a lot of effort into making it, and it's something we developed for a client, so we didn't really open source it, but we will have to rework it. It was developed on 4.1 Enterprise, and we had to implement it 3 times, one for the Flash uploader, one for the drag and drop uploader, and once again for the HTML uploader. And now in 4.2 they use a HTML5 uploader, so maybe it would be a good time to maybe open source it, but for the moment it's just one big chunk of customization for clients.
Cool. Very cool. Nice project. That was really cool.
It's a really nice project. And just add something. I think you should open source it because there's definitely a use for it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Ole. So you did some work refactoring the SDK, and also one comment about Ole before we get going here. Everyone likes to say that Richard worked for almost 24 hours during the hackathon. He was always on. I think he only slept for a few hours. But Ole showed back up, I guess, after a lot of you guys went out celebrating afterwards. Ole came back and was on for a lot of the West Coast hackathon.
Actually, that was after beers. I went out to have beers with the others, then I went back and finished off and did a pull request before I went to bed.
Yeah, that was impressive. So, Ole gets the Iron Man award.
The hackathon actually started out on Thursday morning when I had to travel to the airport, and I had some spare time in the airport, so I actually spent time on the plane working on some other projects, writing the tutorial I just released. And then I got to Brussels and went out for beers, and we hacked all day and night for Friday, and on Saturday I had some leftover time, so I went out for beer and some lunch with Laundry Darkstar, and then I had to fly home, and again I had some more time on the plane, so I used that time to do some hacking as well. So I actually, with that and some time afterwards, I have 3 projects completed, so yeah.
Very
nice. During the hackathon,
very cool. So do you want to,
during the hackathon, I worked on the Maven SDK, which we needed to refactor to Maven, and I found out actually that refactoring it to Maven was the least part of the work, because it's just moving code around to Maven and doing some artifacts. But I had a talk with Gab about it, and I talked a bit about with Jeff about it, about what is the end product of this SDK examples that I'm rewriting. Do we want to include them as a possibility in the Maven artifacts? So when you create new Maven projects or a new module from Maven archetypes, should it be included there? Should there be a separate module with examples? Should it be a standalone zip file? And I think we more or less agreed on making that standalone zip file, but I don't feel we really got any last words put into it if that's the way we want to go. Or but yeah, there's not really much to show. I created some examples and some introduction on how it works. There were some examples on custom actions and custom models, and I've been working on some more examples I'll push within the next few weeks as well, to do some customization on share, how to show, how to extend dashlets and all that stuff, and probably also some of the new widget system as well that would go and fit in nicely. And I already did one pull request, and we just need to finish off discussing if we should just accept it and have that. But we ended up on some questions regarding the embedded client that's in the examples today. If you want to still have an example on embedded, if so, how would you do that? Does that actually fit in with the Maven SDK and all that stuff? So there's still some more talks to be done in that area, but overall I'm quite happy with the progress I made during the hackathon, because I got some examples running and got everything committed. I was just a bit frustrated when the pizzas arrived and we had to stop for the day. I didn't really get to create that pull request, so we had some pizzas and went out for beers, and after I got back to the hotel I went back online and yeah, I finished it off. So
that's awesome. I mean, I think I need to get in there and accept that pull request here in the next short order. So I'll do that. But yeah, I think it's great, because I really think the old SDK is leaving that out there is bad, because there are some things in there that really people shouldn't be doing anymore, and things that just aren't relevant. So having a new SDK, which is really not really an SDK, but more of a set of examples, I think will help a lot of people. So if we can get people to use the Maven SDK as the SDK, and then use your refactored SDK, which are now just a set of examples, then I think that's a nice tool set for people that are getting started.
And that's actually about being a set of examples. That's one of the things I'm discussing with Gab, if we should include this, and because if you create a new module from the existing archetypes, you actually get some example codes, which is just something Gab left there to have examples. And here goes a Java file, and we're talking about if we should split it up, mainly because I would like to see that we had a Alfresco AMP, just a clean project, and a Share AMP also as a clean project. All in one is still a great one, and then have one with examples filled up with all kinds of examples for people to look at. But that's yet to be decided.
No, I think that's the way to go. I mean, I just once you've done one instantiation from the archetype, and you see the code in there, and you see how it works, you don't need it anymore. And every other time you create a project from that archetype, it's more annoying than anything, because you have to go in and delete all those things that are not helping your project at all. So yeah, I agree that the archetype should be creating empty projects, and unless you want one that's populated with samples. So I hope that's what we end up doing.
And a few notices I also wrote on my tutorial I just released on the new widget framework, which is all over Twitter these days. So grab a copy. If you haven't already got the link, I'll paste it into the chat soon. For my next project, which is also something I demoed briefly at the hackathon to Francesco and Boris and Landry, is the near perfect development environment, which you'll probably hear more about later. But basically, it enables real rapid development where you can edit anything, server-side JavaScript, client-side JavaScript, Java classes, and have it reloaded without having to restart. So that's a cool project that a few people has been invited to help me test. So yeah. I'll shut up now.
No, that was great. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So
Jeff. Yeah. So before we go to Oksana, let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see. Desktop here. Start screen share. Okay. So do you see a picture here? Can you see that picture?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's Oksana on the big screen on the hacker room in Brussels. So this is how we could see all the rest of the people working on during the hackathon. And this is after the hackathon. So you can see there Ole, who is just before he sent this pull request. So he's getting here to his Balmer pick just before his last commit. And then you also have Francesco next to him and Philippe Dubois the other side, and you have Landry all to the right here. That was the after party.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So
Every time I talk to you guys, I'm like kicking myself for not having gone to Belgium to participate, but that wasn't in the cards, unfortunately. So, but yeah, look, I would definitely say that the people at the Belgian hackathon had the most fun. Although Sydney looked like they were doing okay, but I don't think it was anything compared to what you guys were doing. So that's good. All right, so Oksana, do you want to talk about what you did? It sounds like you did some data list work, and you also did some Android.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, everyone. By the way, Boris, sorry, but I don't like my photo on your photo. I'm not very nice there. So please delete it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the only photo I have from you, so I have to keep it. Or you send me another one. If you send me another one, I can delete that one.
I will think about it. Okay, on the eve of this hackathon, we had Alfresco Moscow meetup. So on Friday, we was a little bit sleepy, and my job mostly was how to wake up my colleagues and how to make them work, how to make them write some code. Finally, we decided to do 2 projects. Let me share my screen. I think it works. The first, I was the coordinator of that project. The first project was my first Android application. The idea was to print individual questionnaires for all meetup participants with the QR codes, then to scan these QR codes, to upload them to Alfresco, and to select a winner by randomizer. I will not show you this project, sorry. I already recorded the video file on YouTube. I will place the link to the README on the GitHub. It's not so easy to show the Android emulator in Hangouts. So I will tell you the second project. It's more interesting from my point of view. It's about a data grid. Maybe some of you know that I and my colleagues, we develop Alvex solution. It's a set of extensions for Alfresco. And one of them we call document registers. But in Russia, maybe people understand what is it about, but for all other world, I think it's mostly yet another data grid and advanced data lists, as we can usually see in Alfresco share. Some time ago, we found a very nice bug in Alfresco GR. It's already 4 years ago. We like people involved in this issue very much, so we wanted to implement it. It's about pluggable data list cell renderers, about search for the data lists, and so on. So we implemented it as a part of our solution, Alvex, and as our hackathon project, we tried to move it to Alfresco Maven because we used our own Maven structure and so on, and so solve all dependencies between other Alvex components and the data grid. So now we have this nice repository on the GitHub for this Alvex data grid with the two extensions. It's for repository side and share side. How it works. Let's see default sample website design project site. It's about end user features. So it's one of default data lists. It's issue log. The first feature is the search. The search toolbar is generated automatically for all data list types. It can be default data list types or custom. So we can search, for example, by priority, or we can search by, for example, by, no, it's too difficult to search by due date. For example, by one word in description, and so on. The second feature is about configuring columns we want to see. Of course, we can configure it in our share config, but sometimes people want to see only some of the fields in the data grid and other fields on some details page. So we added configuring the data list page. For example, we can remove comments. Okay, it's not so easy for the first time. For example, due date. So now we don't see all fields here. And if I will log in not as administrator, but by some another user, I again will see all fields in their data grid, and I can configure what fields I want to see here. And the most interesting for developers part, I will speak very short about it because I'm not a developer. It's about cell renderers. As we saw in this issue, it was interesting to support, for example, generating custom links. It means that if we will see the field, the association with some document CM content type, we will have the link to the document details page. It's our usual document details page, some documents in it. The idea was to support custom links. For example, this is the element in another register, in another data list. I think in this data list it's first number. So the link will move us to another page. It's view metadata page. It is a custom renderer that we can attach to our fields, to our data list in share config. How it looks, we have the model type configuration as usual for our data list. And here in our form, data grid configuration form, we have appearance field, and we can write custom renderers like we want to parse this field as we have control. It's not FTL, it's JavaScript, it's Alvex data grid renderer, and we should write a little bit JavaScript to show where we should go. It's just an example how to write some custom renderers for this extension. By the way, custom page. A lot of people try to use Alfresco data list to store some tasks, documents, so we think that it is an interesting improvement of default data lists because a lot of people look for it.
Yeah, that is a super nice enhancement to data grids, data lists. That's for sure. I could see that being very useful. So that's very cool. So how many people did you have working on this, Oksana? Did you have
on the
several?
Data grid, yes, it was 3 of my colleagues, developers, so they wrote a lot of code in Alvex, and then they spent that one day hackathon to move this part of our code, to move this extension from Alvex to another independent extension.
That's cool. That's nice. And so if people want to leverage that extension, they can just get that on GitHub. And have you added it also to add-ons as well?
Not yet, but yes, we will do it. And we already wrote one post on the blog about
Oh,
how
okay.
to use it. And yes, and we will add one more. Let me share the screen again. Yeah. So building, installing, and features. On the GitHub, there will be all links. Now there is only one blog post about using it and user features, and we will add, I think, tomorrow or maybe this week another blog post about how to write your own cell renderers and how to attach them.
That's cool. And you should also add a link to that
To the
into that
add-on.
Jira.
Yeah, I will do it.
Okay, good.
Every time I see a demo from Oksana's team, I'm always impressed about all the things that they do. It's a very productive team. And they always work on things that I never thought, like, okay, that's actually very useful and something that was needed.
But when you
really
have a customer who asks for the feature and who's ready to pay for it, so it's not a problem.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, and I'm just seeing Douglas on IRC is also saying how much that you've added to the data list there, and it actually makes data lists more likely that he would use those because of that feature. So that's nice.
Great.
Let's see. So, anything else for Oksana? All right. So Richard and I. So Richard was busy doing all kinds of things as he usually is during the hackathon, but he did give me some of his time, and so he and I worked on CMSLib, and we worked on finishing out the browser binding. So it's probably 90 to 95% of the way there now. So doesn't demo very well because basically if you've used CMSLib, which is the Python client API for CMS, you know that it's just an API that you can use in your own Python applications to work with Alfresco. And now you have the option of using the browser binding instead of the Atom Pub binding. I haven't benchmarked it yet, but it should be faster to use the browser binding. But yeah, so if you're interested in trying it out, you can go to chemistry.apache.org and check out CMSLib from head, and you will have the latest code, which includes what we worked on the hackathon to make the browser binding work. So it's like I said, very close. I'm going to clean it up and then do an official 0.6 release on CMSLib. And then that'll be the first release that you can use to use either the Atom Pub binding or the browser binding. And if you don't make any changes to your code, your code will continue to work. It'll just use the Atom Pub binding. So you will have to make a small change if you want to leverage the browser binding going forward. So I can show it, but like I said, it's just not that exciting to see Python command line connecting to the Alfresco repo and doing things with it. Just not a very sexy demo. So I'll probably skip that. So that was it. Oh, Roy was going to demonstrate the Minecraft mod that he did, and he is stuck traveling, and so he was unable to join us this morning, which is a bummer. But I've created a YouTube playlist and on the Alfresco 101 channel I think it was called Virtual Hackathon Demos or something. And I've got Oksana's videos added to that playlist. And if you make a demo of the project that you worked on during the hackathon, then we can add that video to the playlist as well. And I'll add the video of this Tech Talk to that playlist as well. So that'll help. But I'm hoping that Roy will record a demo of what he did with Minecraft, and we can add that to the playlist. It's really hard to describe Roy's project, but I guess I'll take a couple of minutes and try. So first off, if you've never used Minecraft or seen people using Minecraft, then this is not going to make any sense to you at all. But if you kind of get the gist of Minecraft, basically Roy made a modification that allows you to work with your Alfresco repository from within the virtual world of Minecraft. So if I'm remembering correctly, it created so in Minecraft you've got literally a virtual world, and you go into Minecraft with Roy's mod, and it will build a platform that is the same size as the documents that are contained in the folder. So if you've got if you've got 25 documents in your folder, then Minecraft displays a platform that's a 5x5 grid. And then it seemed like you could go onto the platform and see the names of documents on little signposts that were displayed around the platform, if I remember that correctly. Boris, am I doing? I know that you like describing Minecraft with words is like a losing proposition, but maybe you can. Did I leave anything out about his?
Well, one of the cool things when we saw the demo is that when the guy was jumping, so he could see a view from the different platform from the high position. Then you can see, okay, that one is much larger than the other one. So he could inspect the folders that were larger in terms of content. So it's actually a way of auditing your system. So you can be there playing, and then your boss would come and say, "What are you doing?" I'm auditing the system.
That's right. So yeah, we'll get Roy to record a video, and we'll add that to the virtual hackathon demo playlist, because it was pretty interesting. It was certainly unique.
It was really cool to see, and there's a lot of perspectives on it. There was a lot of ideas going back and forth while he was demoing it. The idea that a site would be reflected as a house, so you enter the door on the site, and if you enter the door, you become a member of the site. The site would have different doors, and once you enter a door, you go into a cellar, and each cellar would be a folder, and there's so many possibilities for this to work out as a cool project. And as Richard said at some point, it's the best way to tell the kids what we actually do for a living.
Yeah, in Minecraft they have those. You can build a railway, and you can have cars on the railway. I could see that. Maybe we could get the activity guys involved and implement business processes as branching and joining railways that show up in Minecraft. I don't know.
That would be
we'll have to
pretty
see.
awesome. Pretty awesome. There was also talks about the talking pig.
Your document in the train car.
There was also talking.
Sorry, go ahead.
There was also talks about a talking pig, something about having Alfresco grab the text output of a document, and you could give it to some sort of a pig or some sort of animal that could read it out loud. So you could go into a platform and say, "Here's a document. Please have this animal read it out loud to me."
Yeah, very strange and cool. All right, well, we are close to the top of the hour. This is my last Tech Talk Live as an Alfrescan. And it's fitting that you guys are here on the panel with me, some of my closest friends in the Alfresco community here. And as I've been saying, I'm not leaving the community. I'll still be around. So just changing the sponsor for my participation in the community is all. So anyway, it's been a good 3 years as the leader of this community, and I look forward to continuing the good work. So thanks for participating in Tech Talk Live today, as well as all the other Tech Talk Lives and office hours and IRCs and meetups and everything that you guys that are on the panel, as well as all of you out there watching these. Thanks for everything that you've done for this community, and let's keep it going. We've got something good going here, and we need to keep it going forward. So that's all I've got for today.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to talk that much because it's difficult to don't get emotional about you leaving. But thank you in the name of all the community. It's really been great having you, and for me, it was one of the motivation to start really being part of the community. When I saw your first talks in London in 2011, was or 2000, yeah, 2011. I was really like, I'm entering into a community which is well worth investing an effort. So yeah, it's going to be different without you, but we're going to support Richard as much as we can as a community. So I think we have good things to carry on working on the community. So thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. You did a great job, and you will be missed.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we hope
you.
that you
And it was
will
my
support
pleasure.
us. Mhm. Oh, we
Yes,
hope that you still
definitely,
will
always.
you will participate in the community, write a lot of blog posts, and have more time to work with us.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's the idea. So, all right, guys. Adios. We will
Adios, Jeff.
see you next time.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.